I've been working on a new positional system for my game Bob Simulator. I'm working currently on world generation, but I don't want the generation to be limited by the 64-bit integer limit or float precision errors. Unfortunately, in most 3D software, including the Godot engine, which is what I'm using for this project, if you go just a little too far in a world, the game starts to break. In order to fix this, games center the world around the player as you move around, limiting the world only to the 64-bit integer limit, and basic float limitations, which will only become apparent if the chunks are not moving independently, which in my game they do. My strategy for Bob Simulator is to recenter the world as you move, and store and create the seeds for world chunks based on an enlarged integer system. Essentially, the seeds and positions of world chunks are stored as arrays of integers rather than just single integers per axis, which is how most games work. Each element of the array is itself a 64-bit integer with a maximum value of around 9 quintillion. If the array has 16 elements, for example, that data piece can store up to 10 to the 303rd power different values using this method. But if I make a small change to the code, I can make it so that the array's size is dynamic, and new elements are appended to it automatically. This allows the system to store values up to, not 10 to the 303rd power, but 10 to the 18 millionth power, if we limit array size to 1,000,000 elements max. We have to do this, as arrays with more elements will cause lag after too long, due to the finite amount of RAM computers have, and each element in an array adds to the amount of RAM that is being used up per frame. I may add an experimental setting to disable this limit in the future, allowing for travel out to a theoretical maximum of 10 to the 10 to the 20th power, which is absolute insanity. It should be worth mentioning that the limits of 10 to the 303rd power and the limits of 10 to the 18 millionth power are both larger than any other 3D game pretty much ever, that I know of at least. If I can get this system to work, at least in single player, which I am extremely close to doing by the way, that would be incredible. Then, we could have Bobs out forever.
Bala.
The name I've assigned to this system is Bob's Omega Builder, abbreviated as Bob. I have no idea what I'm doing, please help. But how did I get myself in this situation? What am I doing? What is the meaning of life? The answer is simple. I have done other projects in the past of various weird names. Water Game, Builder's Sand Blocks, yeah, I don't know what happened with that one. I also made a game called Bob Simulator. All of these games died, because I stopped developing them, because I really didn't know what I was doing. But now I have experience, at least some. I have switched engines to Godot after leaving Unity behind in the dust, so what is my plan? What I'm basically trying to do is mix the best elements of my past now-defunct projects to create one new project, a new Bob Simulator to rule them all. Water Game was one of my old projects, and, well, I don't have much development footage, I do have this. The idea was to create an infinite ocean game where you boated around collecting treasure and doing quests, like an RPG. It's a simple premise, but wonky world generation tripped me up because I hadn't done anything like it before. Builder's Sandblocks is another one of my old projects. It was basically just Gary's mod but wonky. That's it. One thing that was nice is since I was using a modern game engine, Unity at the time, you could spawn in hundreds of objects without the game breaking, unlike Gmod, made in Source Engine, whose physics is worse. Now finally, the old Bob Simulator. It was a game of NPCs you could whack and steal money from, basically the GTA of the group. You were in a city and could buy food. This was one of the first projects I worked on. It failed because I had never attempted multiplayer before and didn't know what I was doing. I tried to do multiplayer, and I got a bunch of weird bugs, and I quit. This new Bob Simulator, a mix of all of this, is to have a sandbox game mode where you can build and do whatever you want with all the tools the game provides. There will also be an adventure mode, and possibly a survival mode too, allowing you to go on adventures with your friends, defeat monsters, do quests, and progress in the game freely. The game will be highly moddable, and procedural generation will be an available world type for all game modes, allowing for replayability. The multiplayer system will be decentralized and based in an authoritative server structure to allow for entirely community-driven activity. I have other plans for this too, and the project's development is progressing quickly. I am well aware that this whole idea is a bit far-fetched. It sounds extremely ambitious, and while yes, it will take a considerable amount of time to iron out every part of the game, I have done all of these things before, including mixed together in Unity. In fact, I was on the path to completion of basically this exact concept before Unity pulled out its new runtime fee policies and gave everyone a seething hatred of corporatism. Now I use Godot, and I'm back at square one, but I'm also not because of all of the experience that came before from the previous project. I hope to make more videos on this project, and indeed I will. If you're interested in seeing the development of this project, feel free to subscribe to be notified of uploads to this channel. And thank you for watching. I hope to see you again soon.